In a slogging first half dominated by defence, neither side was able to crack the line. With bad news for the Panthers, hooker Brett Boyd helped off with a suspected broken jaw. Penrith grabbed first points through the boot of Greg Alexander. The Knights evened it up though, John Schuster making it 2-2 at the break. The deadlock wasn't broken until midway through the second half, when quick hands on the fifth tackle saw Schuster send winger Adrian Brunker over. Schuster landed a great conversion for the 6-point buffer. The disappointing Panthers never looked like fighting back, and with 3 minutes to go, veteran Kiwi prop Sam Stewart barged over to polish off a deserved win for the Knights. David Peters, National 9 News.
NRMA Acting General Manager Bruce Searles released the report this morning. He says most of the region's roads date back to the 50s and 60s and are unable to meet the demands placed on them by increased freeway access and population growth.
The problem is that the interconnecting roads between the freeway and the areas of recreation, work and living aren't up to the standard for the existing traffic, let alone the growth that's going to occur.
The report named 41 traffic black spots based on a study of crashes, injuries and fatalities in 1990. There was only one where a death had occurred, the Carey Street Boulevard intersection at Toronto, the scene of dozens of rear-end and right-turn traffic accidents. The report blames the high speed of northbound traffic combined with the volume of vehicles leaving the freeway. The Charlestown-Hillsborough Road intersection had the highest number of injuries, 14 people hurt in 19 crashes. Nearby Smart Street Pacific Highway intersection recorded most crashes, 24 with 11 injuries. The NRMA says the whole CBD traffic pattern in the Charlestown area was the subject of an independent study. The research was carried out during a lengthy dry season. The report's prediction that heavy rain would worsen road service breakdown was being realised today. While the report conceded that the Lake and Central Coast road problems were typical of those throughout the state, it reserved special criticism for the Warners Bay Road linking Charlestown and the Lake. The accident rates on this stretch are well above the state average, but that's no surprise to the NRMA's engineers.
It's clearly a road in a fairly highly populated area, carrying over 11,000 vehicles a day, and it's clearly not suitable to the function it's supposed to serve.
Copies of the report are being provided to local councils and the Roads and Traffic Authority. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
Technicians have been busy for a week now at Moree installing the necessary transmitters and receivers within the telephone exchange building and aerials on top of the tower next door, which has been specially extended for the purpose. A turn-on date has not been decided, but it's expected to be about mid-May.
Moree is getting 11 voice channels, which is a standard type of installation for a country town.
It's been a long time coming and demand will be high, but the system can be expanded without too much trouble if the need arises.
Yeah, there's no problem adding on. In a matter of a couple of days, more channels can be added.
The exact range of the system will not be known until after it's up and running and can be tested, but a 50-kilometre radius would not be out of the question, and there are hopes cellular mobiles will be effective all the way to Gundawindi.
The meeting was held at Inverell's RSM Club with gun supporters from all over the northwest attending. The Australian Free Citizens Association was formed at the meeting to address a wide range of issues, not just those associated with firearms. A petition to the New South Wales Governor, Peter Sinclair, was supported almost unanimously. There were also calls for a referendum into the gun law legislation that remains at State Parliament awaiting royal assent. Opponents of the legislation believe self-protection and protection of the country will be threatened. Mr Fisher was questioned today outside the National Party's regional seminar in Lismore. He refused to repeat Dr Hewson's comments outside the legal safety of Parliament, but insisted he still fully supported them.
The New South Wales right is ruthless, has been known as being ruthless over all these years. I defend the right of John Hewson to move this key motion on the floor of the House against the Speaker. I seconded that motion. We must take the fight back to the key issues. It is the lack of control by the Speaker of the Parliament.
Mr Fisher said the whole debate was a red herring to distract voters from what he saw as the real issues.
Keating is introducing a distraction by his reaction to all that took place in the House last Thursday.
Mr Fisher used the occasion to explain the Coalition's fight-back policy as it affects families, small business and farmers. The one-day seminar was held to cover issues of interest to National Party members and followers on the North Coast. It attracted several high-profile National Party leaders in addition to Mr Fisher, including 4 state ministers and local members.
Joy. Faith necessary to move mountains. Rejoice at wrongdoing.
NBN won a National Merit Award for its 4-hour live coverage of the Trans-Tasman Surf Lifesaving Test between New Zealand and Australia at Merewether Beach in February 1991, plus the ongoing Join a Surf Club promotion and NBN's news coverage of surf lifesaving in general and the blanket coverage of the Cowdex IRB Grand Prix. Chad Watson and the Newcastle Herald picked up the Best Regional Newspaper Prize for their reporting of the Trans-Tasman, a weekly surf and bars column and general coverage.
They're voted on by the Surf Lifesaving Association and they're called for nationally, obviously from surf clubs in Tasmania right through Western Australia, South Australia, Victoria and right through to the Northern Territory actually. NBN obviously for their coverage of the Trans-Tasman Test last year, I think that was fantastic. It was well received in Sydney obviously, and likewise Chad Watson from the Newcastle Morning Herald has been of great assistance throughout the season.
With good pre-season form to their credit, the Falcons headed to holiday heaven full of confidence. But the Gold Coast, winners of the Kmart Classic and led by a sensational performance by Mike Mitchell, powered home to win by 15 points.
Terry Dozier is what we call the best defensive player in the whole league. And he did everything he could and possible to stop him, and the guy got hot from the outside and he just bowled his way in on the inside, so it made it very hard for Terry to guard him.
Most teams would be scanning the videotapes for answers as to what went wrong, but there really wasn't any cause for alarm. The Falcons fought back to be only 2 points down at the last change, but Mitchell stepped up a gear to deny the visitors a win. For long-time campaigner Mike Johnson, the signs were still there that this will be a good year for the Falcons.
Showed patches of coming back and doing certain things. It shows that if we stick together and keep confident, then we'll probably have a pretty good year.
It's not quite the pace of Craig McDermott, but it's still proving a lot of fun.
Without knowing it, you can pick up a whole variety of useful lessons, as well as finding out how fast you can throw a ball.
These children are learning about the theory of force, mass times acceleration, and the use of slow and fast muscles. Riding the exercise bike shows the students how much power is needed to keep the bike at a certain speed. For example, grade 3 for an hour would use 9 mils of petrol, 10 grams of coal, or the calories in 1 chocolate biscuit. You can test your physical coordination or see why a cricket ball curves through the air. The display is part of the Supernova exhibition and will be officially kicked off by former Science Minister Barry Jones tonight.
Yeah, it's been a good season for me personally. I've played quite consistently and I'm very happy with that. And coming to Australia, it's been a big step. I've enjoyed it.
What do you think of the standard here in the National Soccer League?
Standard's been very good. I'm very surprised at the standard. Australia isn't well known in the soccer world, but the standard here is very good and there's some good players in the National League.
And what about your teammates here at the BHP Breakers? You ended up being moulded into a very, very good side.
Yeah, we have. It's just unfortunate we've lacked a bit of experience in our debut year, but hopefully they'll make up for that next year and hopefully be top 5 consideration.
What are some of your fine memories here this year?
Personally, beating the Socceroos, which was a big highlight for us, beating South Melbourne and Melbourne Croatia, who are quality sides, and it just shows you when we can put our heads together what we can do.
And your teammates, I'd like to thank you for your contribution, not only in the midfield, but for your goal scoring potential.
Yeah, goal scoring potential is a bit of a cliche word, but it's been disappointing not scoring goals. For a side bet with one of my teammates, I didn't score any, but never mind. There's a few near misses.
Ian, the whole structure of the club has been fantastic this year in their debut season. I don't think anyone could expect them to perform as well as they have. It's been a great year.
It has, yeah. Dave and Colin and Bruce have all rallied around really well. The club's done magnificently, and to have a stadium like this in its first year is really good.
I know you're under a bit of pressure from a lot of people to re-emerge here as a player next year. What are the prospects?
The prospects are very good. The one big stumbling block, I need permission from my club in Scotland, St Johnstone, and it all really hinges on their decision.
Well, Ian, on behalf of all the people that have watched you play here this year, not only at Newcastle but right throughout the National Soccer League, you've given us a lot of enjoyment, and congratulations on a fine season. And I think the president of BHP Breakers, Kommitsios, has a small presentation to make to you.
Well, Ian, on behalf of the BHP directors and the soccer fellows of Newcastle, I'd like to present you this and thank you for coming and playing excellent football with us. And of course, you've been a great ambassador to Newcastle, and I hope and trust that I'll see you next year with us, of course. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Con.
Thanks for that.
This gives me great pleasure to receive this from Newcastle BHP Breakers. I'd like to thank a lot of people, directors, officials at the club, many friends that I've made in Newcastle, but most of all the players who have given me the opportunity to play my soccer here. And once again, thanks very much, boys. Thank you.
Half chance, but yep, Brad Malone just couldn't get it down quickly enough. It was one of these balls.
Nice touch on by Kotska. Kotska's shot, a great goal by Andrew Kotska. What a superb goal, Eddie Thompson.
Fantastic goal, Kotska, and he's a lefty, and putting on his right foot, and he'll remember this one. I can tell you that for nothing.
Absolutely superb goal here at Leichhardt Oval. The 1-2, beautiful return pass, and Kotska buried it.
meeting at the university 2 weeks ago decided both staff and students should be polled on the contentious issue of continuing amalgamation with the Northern Rivers campus. For and against cases were circulated, and a sample of 450 internal and external students were surveyed, the external students being telephoned at night. The result was clear-cut.
About 93% result for a severance of links between Armidale and Lismore. Students were concerned with not only issues of funding, but administrative issues. External students were largely concerned with the lack of information that's provided, the benefits of amalgamation. They see that Armidale was a quite a well-established university in its own right, and they have not seen any benefits flow from the amalgamated institution.
Based on the results of the survey, both staff and students will present submissions to the university's Board of Governors.
I hope that the Board of Governors gets the message this time that the staff, students, both academic and general staff, really have seen no benefits from an amalgamated institution. They've seen a lot of costs involved, they've seen no cohesion, and that the Board of Governors weren't quite getting the true and accurate gauge or response that people do not wish this amalgamated institution to continue, and that they've got to start doing something about it.
"2,000 men are employed at the pits in question: Coranbong, Munmora, Mayuna, New Stan, Wai'i, Awabba, New Vale and New Vale No. 2. The union says many of those jobs would be threatened if its offer is not successful. However, the only other bidder for all 8 mines, Coal and Allied Limited, says it wouldn't be closing any of the collieries. Neither group could say when the current owner, Pacific Power, will make a decision on a sale, but the government has already said it would be by mid-year. The United Mineworkers Federation says its bid promises increased production with all its flow-on effects to the state's income and improved industrial relations. The union would be a shareholder and have representation on the board of the company operating the mines. While only the 2 consortiums have bid for the lot, there are several offers for individual or pairs of them. The government has said if an overall offer isn't good enough, then it will consider separating the mines into groups feeding particular power stations.
They queued up to meet the man they call Blocker. Balmain blockbuster Steve Roach, deep in Knight's territory, left hand working overtime during a promotional visit.
There you go, pal.
The Steve Roach story is now the subject of a best-selling book, aptly titled Doing My Block. Blocker's reputation precedes him, and he doesn't mind one bit.
I don't think that there's enough characters in the game at the moment. I think everyone's stereotyped, so you know, the people, all the fans are probably waiting for some more characters to come along.
One of the game's colourful personalities, Roach has known the highs of International League and the lows of losing a grand final. He once said he loved League so much they'd have to drag him into retirement kicking and screaming. Well, injury may change all that.
I've done both knees now, so I've done my left and my right knee, so mate, they probably won't have to take me out kicking and screaming, they'll probably wheel me off.
Like the knee, dreams of another encounter with the cane toads have been shattered, so who does he think should replace him?
I think the Chief Harrigan should get a good run in there, mate. I think he's playing well, him and Big Sarge, so you know, we send blokes all the best, I hope that they get their turn.
Very diplomatic.
Professor Forbes estimates a 50% regional increase in breast cancer in recent years to more than 200 annually. He concedes part of that can be attributed to the highly publicised breast screening program and generally better awareness among women of the problem. But there's another factor, lifestyle, including older high-dose contraceptive pills, menopausal hormone treatment and first pregnancies later in life.
There are 3 activities that might be more common in a more affluent Western lifestyle than you may find in a developing country or a less affluent lifestyle.
As the population ages, the chance of contracting cancer has gone from 1 in 15 to 1 in 9 in just a decade. But facilities are not keeping pace.
This is a tertiary referral service, our cancer services here, and they are not equipped to deal with the demand. The demand has been increasing every year for the last 5 years. Today, for example, we had to cancel 2 operations because there were no inpatient beds for the patients to be operated on. It's not a general hospital, it's a cancer hospital as well, and we can't afford to cancel patients' operations like that.
Professor Forbes was also critical of facilities for the breast screening program, which is still administered from transportable buildings in the grounds of the Mater. He said there are moves for things to be improved, but the pace of change is nowhere near rapid enough. The new arrangement will reduce the number of administration areas in the state from 9 to 4, with the other divisional headquarters located at Goulburn and Dubbo. It's the result of a lengthy review of ambulance operations in New South Wales, which found that the service was too top-heavy with administrative staff. However, a spokesman said today that the new arrangement will not mean a reduction in the quality of the service offered to the public. Talks will be held with the relevant trade unions, and affected staff will have the option of redeployment, retraining or voluntary redundancy. Despite being made the major divisional headquarters, local services in Newcastle will not alter, with the coordination centre and the workshop remaining an integral part of the operation.
It's estimated up to 40 million tonnes of liquid waste is generated in the Hunter and Central Coast each year. To treat that output, a subsidiary of the Cleanaway company, called EnviroGuard, has proposed the construction of a $15 million facility on Kooragang Island. The development comes before Council again tonight after 2 years of planning. But some are opposed to the facility, believing it will bring problems by the tanker load.
It's going to smell. There are going to be malfunctions there that will disrupt the health and well-being of this community.
The Mayfield Residents Group is particularly opposed to the plant being built so close to the harbour.
Newcastle may be seen as the waste disposal unit for the South Pacific, or indeed, for the Southern Hemisphere. Why on earth would you want it there unless you need ships to get to it?
Cleanaway has rejected that assertion. It says apart from taking bilge oil from ships, all the waste will be from this region. But where's all the Hunter's liquid waste going at the moment? Cleanaway believes some of the companies are treating their own waste, but others could be illegally dumping it. And a recent finding by the Waste Management Authority indicated that of the 40 million tonnes generated locally, a minuscule 250 tonnes were being treated each year at the official Sydney plant. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
Between July 1991 and June 93, $300 million will be spent on the Pacific Highway. But even our politicians admit it will be little more than an expensive band-aid. What's needed to curb the road's shocking accident rate is a dual carriageway stretching from Hexham to the Queensland border.
On current funding levels, we would not have a divided dual carriageway until the year 2020. So if we want to have a divided dual carriageway on the Pacific Highway before that time, there's no option apart from having private investment, unless you want to increase taxes, and I don't think anybody's in favour of that.
But while the federal and state governments can't find the $4 billion needed to fund the project, private investors apparently can. The state government has received 20 expressions of interest concerning the tollway. 5 investors are keen to undertake the entire project. Another 9 are only interested in developing specific areas. The public would only be forced to pay for a period of 20 to 30 years. After that time, the road would become state property.
The toll would be there for as long as it took to pay it off, and that would be a predetermined period. And in the meantime, people who didn't want to use the toll road, low-income earners, pensioners and so on, would have an alternative route.
At the moment, tollways are only legal between Wollongong and Newcastle, but the state government is moving to amend the relevant legislation. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
Meanwhile, an old diesel loco has also found a new life at the Hunter Valley Training Company in Tullara. In all its glory, the 7307 stands silently in the company yards. For the past 4 months, apprentices and volunteers have lovingly restored the old loco, which is one of only 20 produced in Maryborough, Queensland 20 years ago. The loco, formerly owned by State Rail, was officially handed over to the company yesterday by the Minister for Transport, Bruce Baird. With the official ceremony over, time for a test drive. The train's run won't be much further than this. The loco's main job will be to move wagons and carriages around the workshop complex. It'll also be used in the training of apprentices at the company. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
Giants coach Bruce Palmer was suspended for 1 match following this tiff with a referee. The NBL also fined him $1,000. It's not his first tangle with basketball officialdom. Palmer already had a suspended sentence hanging over his head. The league is yet to take action on Palmer's complaints about the standard of refereeing in the Newcastle match. And who better to write the book than Associate Professor Don Wright from the History Department? And the reason for writing was simple enough.
There were still people around who had been involved in its origins, but they wouldn't be around much longer.
Not so simple, retracing the steps from struggling campus through to autonomy in 1965 and finally amalgamation in 1989.
Universities collect paper by the tonne, of course, and we had some of those tonnes to sift through.
Sport hasn't been forgotten, and those first graduates are still grinning. But it's more than a scrapbook. It's more than a trip down memory lane for former students.
Given the Newcastle community's interest and pride in their university, that there'll be a good few people in town who'll buy it too.
Anthony Griffiths, NBN News.
It was coincidence rather than political expediency that brought the opposition leader to the city. But while leaving his parliamentary agenda behind, Dr Hewson still managed to draw parallels with the state of the nation now and the dire straits it was in during the Great Depression, when APEX was formed to work towards solving what its founders felt was a national crisis.
When I was thinking about what to say today, I thought back to the problems of the 1930s, and I focused on, of course, the magnitude of our problems today.
Dr Hewson congratulated APEX on the $10 million it raises annually and the 1 million work hours it devotes to worthy causes, as diverse as the Flying Doctor Service, infant and Aboriginal care initiatives and fostering a sense of community. He identified wider issues confronting Australia.
We've mortgaged the future of our children and our grandchildren, yet we've failed to achieve what we wanted in education and in health and in opportunities in the workplace, in opportunities to buy a home or to get married or to settle down and have a family or whatever.
Outside the convention, the architect of the controversial goods and services tax stuck by his prescription to cure the nation's economic ills.
That's really what it's all about, is eliminating our cost disadvantages in Australia, whether it's all the taxes that exist on things like payroll tax, which are a direct cost of jobs, or petrol excise or sales tax, all the cost disadvantages that are associated with our waterfront, with our transportation system, our telecommunication system. That's where the focus has got to be, and there's no alternative but for pretty dramatic change in order to bring that about.
The 38th Easter Classic, bowlers coming from as far as Bundaberg and Canberra. Already the singles final has been decided. That was yesterday. Broadwater bowler Ken Dory defeating South Grafton's John Kitchen. Ken became the 5th Dory to win the event, following in the footsteps of his grandfather, father and 2 uncles. At Armidale, another Easter tournament, 120 golfers going round. The club's constructing a new course, so players have to make do with temporary greens. Apparently, that hasn't bothered anyone.
We've had record fields in our club championships. At the moment, the fields have dropped down a little bit, possibly because of the temporary greens. But yes, competition has been very fierce.
Until last month, Neil Savage had spent the best part of a year caught up in the legal world, defending his part in a failed suicide pact that ended in the death of his cancer-stricken wife. But today, Mr. Savage was back to what he knows best, standing not in front of judge and jury, but a crowd of admirers of his unique depictions of Australia.
It's only money. You'll be sorry one day.
At a combined auction and exhibition in Nelson Bay, Mr. Savage is selling his art for charity. 20% of the takings will go to Camp Quality for its work with children suffering from cancer. His efforts with the brush also go towards the 200 hours of community service the court has ordered him to do. But Mr. Savage says the judge's sentencing is not the only reason for him picking up painting again.
Really, the community hours service is nothing to me, the 200 hours. Doesn't mean a thing. Because until the day that I'm not here anymore, I will be painting for Camp Quality.
Mr. Savage has painted about 35,000 works, and while he has leukemia, creating has given him a reason to go on living.
I think the best thing I ever did was to go back to painting. I feel as if I'm human again, and I've put whatever's happened behind me, and I've had 2 ways to go. Either up or down. I decided to go up.